Hi, welcome to Grief 101, Delayed Grief. Have you ever had a loss that you thought that you handled pretty well, and then months or even years later, it suddenly hits you? Maybe you barely cried when the person died. You handled the funeral, you answered the phone calls, you took care of the kids, you helped everyone else, and you went back to work. At some point you thought, I guess I'm okay. Then something seemingly insignificant happens. A song comes on, someone says their name, or you experience another loss. Sometimes you're literally just driving down the road and suddenly you're falling apart. That can be delayed grief. Delayed grief happens when the grieving process gets postponed around the time of the loss and shows up later. Maybe that's because there simply wasn't room to grieve when the loss happened. Your brain may have had 100 other things it needed to do. There were decisions to make, people who needed you, bills to pay, arrangements to handle. Survival gets the first shift, and grief clocks in later. When it finally does show up, people often panic. Why is this happening now? Why am I getting worse instead of better? Am I doing something wrong? No. There isn't a window that closes where you miss your opportunity to grieve. The intensity of what you're feeling now doesn't mean something suddenly went wrong. Sometimes grief simply arrives when you finally have enough space to feel what you couldn't feel before. I'll give you a great example. Less than a year after my son passed away, my dog that I had had for 14 years wasn't doing so well, and we had to put her down. In the moment, I was sad, but I was incredibly numb. And I think that's because I already had so much on my plate that I couldn't fully process the loss. That came later. So if a loss from years ago suddenly feels incredibly close today, don't judge yourself by the date on the calendar. Grief doesn't always show up when the loss happens. It shows up when you finally have room for it. My name is Jenna James, and thank you for coming to my Grief 101.